Good afternoon. What's your name? No, you know I'm looking at you. Why are you looking at me? You know I'm looking right at you. What's your name?
My name is Dylan Mike.
Dylan, from what sport?
Wrestling.
Oh, hello, Dylan. Wrestling? I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
I'm just kidding. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Smith, and my co-host for this session is Lori Johnson.
Hi.
We are going to take about the next, 30 minutes to talk to you about AthletesCAN, talk to you about why you're here, talk to you about what you can expect over the course of the weekend. I understand, because I read the program, that you have a fun, packed weekend with a lot of events, a lot of workshops. You're going to be hearing from a lot of people, but we believe that before, especially for the newcomers, for everyone who comes to the AthletesCAN Forum, it's important that you understand exactly why is it you here and what you're going to be doing over the course of the weekend. So we're going to take a little bit of time to do that. We have a shortened amount of time, I'm told, today, but if you do have questions, we'll try to answer those questions for you. All right? Does that work with you? Yeah. You guys don't have to be anywhere in the next 30 minutes? OK, est-ce qu'il y a des personnes ici qui parlent seulement français? Uniquement seulement français? OK. La présentation sera en anglais, mais si vous avez des questions, tu peux les poser en français si tu veux. OK? All the English people are like, what just happened here? Okay. The French people are like, hey, that's good. Yeah, that's good. All right. Go ahead.
So we're going to start with, apparently, a poll. So, Ashley, do we need any special instructions or it's all here? We're good? Keep going? Let me just see what the next slide is. No, okay, so we've got to go back to that. Can we just keep going? Okay, all right. So we're here, as Mike told you, to talk a little bit about what is AthletesCAN, who we are, why we're here. And we want to start by telling you that AthletesCAN has quite a history. This is our 23rd annual forum.
How many?
23.
Wow. 23.
Yes.
20. Cue clapping?
23 annual forum. Now, some of the information that we're sharing with you is in the athlete handbook, and it's a wonderful resource that's available online. So if you're missing something, no problem, you're going to catch it there. So it's the collective voice of athletes in Canada, and the only fully independent and fully inclusive athletes organization of its kind in the country. So that means that there are Olympic athletes, Paralympic athletes, Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games, other sports that have world championships, Aboriginal sport. It is a really inclusive organization, and that's very much its strength.
Do you do that?
The mission and the vision are both there for you. So collective voice for Canada's national team athletes strive to ensure a fair, responsive, and supportive sport system, provide valued programs and services to our members, and develop effective athlete leaders. And it's really that key. This is a place, there's lots of opportunities that you have to be talking about maybe the technical part of your sport, working within your sport organizations or even with a multi-sport organization. But this is really about honing your skills as athlete leaders and building your capacity. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm going to jump in when it's...
He's going to jump in when he wants to. So the vision is that the Canadian sports system as a whole empowers our athletes to achieve their full potential on the field of play and beyond. So this is very much about helping you to become better leaders and able to affect change within your organizations, but it's also about what you can do over and above whatever sport it is that you're participating in.
And just before you switch that next place, so we talk about full potential in your sport. Clearly, we're not here to coach you, tell you how to jump higher, run fast, whatever. The last part of that sense in terms of vision, going beyond, that's really what we're about. And so what will you do after sport, and how will you get through sport? What tools will you have or will you obtain to assist you?
So values, it's really, this isn't a matter of being able to recite values or kind of knowing what they are. This organization is really about having these values embedded into our daily lives. So leadership, developing athlete leaders who lead by example, inspire others to excel, and contribute in meaningful ways to change wherever you live, work, and play. That's a big one, right? Because leadership has many faces, and it's done in many, many ways. And so we'll have lots of really interesting discussions over the course of the next couple of days on what that means. And for example, this afternoon, talking about our pathways to leadership and where we take it. Community, encouraging athlete social responsibility by providing athletes with opportunities to give back and strengthen their community. It's a former board member of the association, Erin, now Cameron, I'm not sure what her married name is, who did research and coined the expression around social responsibility and showed that by becoming involved in your communities and having a focus beyond your performance, it actually resulted in better performance. So having a focus that goes beyond just your goals with your sport. So there's a real need to keep that in mind and in place. Excellence, obviously supporting members' quest for excellence on the field of play and beyond by working in collaboration with others. Since the beginning, there have been stories and stories about athletes who are surviving, right? And we're trying to strive for excellence. So it's really about moving beyond, and there's been some really exciting announcements, and you're going to hear things right after this session about taking it to the next level of helping athletes to be able to strive and excel. And finally, advocacy, striving to ensure the voices of members are represented and rights respected. And this really is around strengthening a collective voice. We have the ability to help each other through any number of issues, through the conversations we're going to have, but it's also around then helping to take those issues, be proactive, and be able to take those issues on a national stage. Why don't you take this one?
I wanted to take off from the last thing you said, actually, just a little bit about advocacy. Some of the things, well, maybe I'll go back a step. How many athlete reps are here? Hands up if you're an athlete rep. Excellent. So that last portion of the values that we were talking about, the advocacy, part and parcel of what will happen this weekend, we hope for you, is that you will, as I say, obtain those tools, those skills, that you'll be able to take back to your own organizations, to your own sports, and implement them to assist your particular sport. So when we talk about advocacy, it's not only about giving you that voice, but giving you the tools so you can advocate not only on behalf of yourself, but your teammates to make your sport a better sport.
All right, so then as the voice of Canadian national team athletes, we work to ensure an athlete-centered sport system by developing leaders who influence sport policy and as role models inspire a strong sport culture. So athlete-centered means that we are the active participants in and not the subject of decision-making. It fully recognizes all the other parts of the system, but it really works to make sure that athletes are at the center of all decision-making policies, actions. Right?
Here's the approach I think that we've taken over the years, right? So we have a number of sport organizations, and in those sport organizations, you have your executive directors, your CEOs, your coaches, high-performance directors, technical directors, and for most parts, if your sport's like mine, they're the ones who make the decision. Am I right? Am I right? What's her name? Sharon. Thanks, Sharon, for letting me know that I'm right. So they make these decisions, right? And our approach is that when these decisions are made, the athletes whom the decisions actually affect should have much more of a say in those decisions. Sharon, am I still right?
Yes.
Okay, kind of worried me there for a second, right? So, and we're going to talk more about that. So when you hear that term athlete-centered, I know we're athletes, right? Some of us former, right? And you have to have this sense of self, and we're the important ones. So we're taking that concept, if you will, and expanding it a little bit more when we talk about athlete-centered. So you are the core of the organization. Imagine this: if the athletes weren't there to compete, you think you'd have a CEO? Would you need a CEO? Would you need a high-performance director to direct what? Traffic? Of course not, right? So you have to look at who, and in this case, we're talking about the athletes, and that's why when we talk about athlete-centered, that is exactly what we mean.
And so what is AthletesCAN? A voice for athletes, athlete representation, at many different tables and in many different ways, focused on athlete rights. From the beginning, there were some of the key issues that brought this organization together were around the rights of athletes being respected, due process around things like selection and discipline, funding, and leadership training. So developing our capacity, as Mike was just talking to. So we are an independent organization, but we don't live in a bubble. So we work with lots of partners. Sport Canada, national sport organizations, often called NSOs. So if you hear that acronym, NSOs. Multi-sport organizations, MSOs, of which now AthletesCAN is considered an MSO. Canadian Sport Institutes across the country, and a variety of sponsors which are listed in your guide and also on the website.
just on that issue of partnership, Lori will attest this because she came into this organization well before I did, but we now have, and we refer to these individuals, these organizations as partners. I can tell you that there was a time where we probably wouldn't have said or considered them as partners. This organization stems from a situation whereby it was us versus them, right? It was the athletes constantly battling to get to the next level, to get what we want, what we desired, and so we moved away from that, right? I think through the education, through the constant being there, being at the table, we move from the us versus them mentality or duality to the point where we're able to actually call these individuals or these organizations partners in the true sense of the word. So I'll give you an example. We talk about multi-sport organizations. We're talking about the Canadian Olympic Association or Committee. We're talking about Commonwealth Games Canada. We work, and many of you who have been involved at that level, especially with the COC or Commonwealth Games, you'll know that their decisions now, much more than it was days in the past, are much more involving the athletes, right? From, I guess, little things to what type of uniforms you're going to have if and when you participate at the games, right? To now, who will be perhaps coaching or participating with you at those particular events. So we're happy that we've moved away from that us versus them mentality and situation to the point now where we can actually call these individuals partners in sport.
Okay, and just 2 points to add. One, tip of the hat to the Government of Canada, because even in the beginning they funded, because they did understand the importance of creating an athlete voice and having representation from athletes on important topics. So there has been that kind of cooperative relationship from the beginning, even when the messaging back and forth wasn't very good. And the second place is, no matter how much you consider someone to be a partner, I think one of the roles of AthletesCAN is to provide dynamic tension in the system. So it's never to become complacent that someone else is looking after our interests, right? By keeping us at the center of the decision making, by staying involved, by being proactive, we ensure that it continues always to be focused on the needs of athletes. And I think we've got to keep that in mind. As much as we partner, we have to provide some dynamic tension in the system. So who represents us? Who governs this organization? How is it run? So there's a volunteer board of directors comprised of current and retired national team members. 7 are elected. Currently, there are 6 in place. One had to withdraw because of a work conflict. There's currently one full-time staff member. Actually, if we can go back to the 6 members, let's get everybody to indicate that they're in the room. So, Josh, our president, right here from Bocce. Dasha.
I don't see her yet.
She's at another taekwondo event. She'll be coming later. Okay, so we'll see Dasha later. Thea from field hockey. Carolyn from snowboard. Trevor from Wichita Rugby, and Maria. I saw her. Yeah, okay, so Maria will be here from rugby as well. So those are the 6 board members currently on the board, and Ashley, our full-time staff member, who is the interim executive director, you've probably all been interacting with her. So just so you have, there, you know 7 more people if you didn't already know them. Elections are this weekend, and we really encourage you to get involved. There are 2 3-year positions up and a 1-year position to replace Danielle. Okay. If you have any questions, I know there's information in your packages. If you have any questions, please talk to any of the current board members or past board members. There are a list of programs. We're not going to go into them because you can find out about these. 1, they're in your kits, and 2, at the booth later this afternoon. So in order to save some time, there are a wide range of programs and services, both available through here and that we also let you know about offered through other organizations. Sport Solution, we'll also be finding more about that, but would you like to say anything about Sport Solution now?
So some of you may have, maybe I should back up a step or two. So former wrestler, but now my day job is as a lawyer, specifically criminal defense. I defend the wrongfully accused. And prior to doing that, however, I was working with Sports Solution on a volunteer basis. So there are 2 law students who work out of London, Ontario at the University of Western Ontario. And they will assist our national team athletes, because it's part of the program, with any issues you may have, legal sport issues that you may have. So it may be an issue of team selection, which is one that comes up quite often, doping issues. They are not lawyers, they are lawyers in training. They are, however, able to attend with the athletes as a rep at a hearing through or at the SCRCC if it gets, if it gets to that level. The service that they provide is free. They will ask you a number of questions. You may sign some documents, confidentiality and that type of thing. But for most part, it's an excellent program. They are supervised. I've assisted them in years past. There's another lawyer who will assist them, kind of a mentor or a coach. So you're not getting some student who doesn't know anything. And in fact, I can tell you, the students who work at Sports Solution are fairly adept when it comes to the sport packages, the athlete agreements. So if I were an athlete who was having some issues, that would most likely be my first step, my first phone call.
All right. So why are we here? AthletesCAN Forum. It's the flagship event for the organization. And it's an opportunity to bring athletes together, and there are a number of things that we're hoping to accomplish while you're here. One is that you network with others and that you share ideas, that we learn from each other and learn from promising practice things that are going on, that we learn more about the sports system, and that we develop leadership skills. So it's pretty straightforward. Are you in the right room? No one was here for an accounting conference? Good, good. So far, so good.
You're in the right room. Are you in the right room?
Apparently we are.
Okay, hold on. Before you move on, let me say this. Listen. Okay, you've taken times out of your lives, right? You've come here for the weekend, families, friends, boyfriend, girlfriends, whatever it is. You've made that decision to get on a plane, a bus, in your car, on a train, and get down here. Okay? We can all agree on that? I love it. For those who didn't answer, your silence is acquiescence. I'll move on. Okay? You all came down here, and you made a decision to come here, so you have to go a little bit further and go, yeah, I'm going to come here, but I'm not just going to sit in the room and do absolutely nothing. If you do that, if you choose to do that, if you choose to come here and sit here for the entire week and do absolutely nothing, you will get absolutely nothing. I assure you. And when you leave the hotel and someone will say, what'd you get? And you go, man, I got nothing. Well, it's probably you did nothing, right? But I will tell you this. If you come in here, open your minds, right, to take in some information, share. You need to share as well as give, right? Meet new people. Go outside your comfort level just a little bit. Just a little bit. I assure you, you will walk out this forum, this conference, this weekend, feeling a lot more accomplished, a lot better than you did when you came in here today. In 1999, that was my very first forum. Very first forum. I knew nothing about AthletesCAN, nothing about the organization. I was in law school at Manitoba, and I was on this Manitoba Athlete Association. I go, hey, do you want to go to Toronto? I said, hey, it's a free trip. Many like you, right? Got a free trip. I like Toronto, right? I like Toronto. So I get on the plane, and I come down here. I walk into a room very similar to this at a hotel, I think it was in Milton or someplace at a golf course, right? And I meet all these wonderful people, wonderful athletes, people who I'd seen on TV, right? People who I'd competed with, and I get into this wonderful session where I'm learning phenomenal things. It was so wonderful that the very next year in 2000, I decided I wanted to be part of this association organization. So I ran for the board. The only problem was that I was no longer a member of the Athlete Association because I graduated from law school and I moved back to Ontario, so they wouldn't pay for me to get here. They wouldn't pay for me to come down or fly down, whatever it was, to participate.
Because there was another rep who was being supported to be there. But
Exactly.
Anyway.
2000, that forum was in Calgary, Alberta. So I decided I wanted to be on this organization, I wanted to be on this board. I bought my own ticket. And you'll know, for those who just got out of school, you got lots of debt, whatever, but I found the money, called some friends up, some of my wrestling buddies who were in Calgary, who were actually part of the forum, said, hey, look, can I crash on the floor in your hotel? I need to be in. They're like, yeah, sure, why not? We'll make a party of it, right? That's how wrestlers are. Am I right, Dylan? Yeah. Okay, Dylan. All right. I don't know if you're yawning or, okay, whatever, right? So I get in there, and I'm running for the board. Laurie Johnson was the chair at the time. I run for the board. I was successful. And it was by far the best decision, one of the best decisions I ever made in life. And I say that, and I tell that story to people because if you're really into it, then you'll find a way to achieve it, right? But I was so moved by the people in the organization, the work that they did. I was inspired to get on the plane, sleep on the floor, memorize the values and missions of the organization over that year so I could be on this board. And I'm hoping, I'm not suggesting or saying to you, well, next year I hope many of you come down here, sleep on the floor, and run for the board. If that's your thing, hey, we'll have something in common, right? But I do hope that you take this time and you take the opportunity to make the most of this weekend. So when we talk about this being our flagship event, it's that for a particular reason, and it's that reason, in my mind, in part, is because of the work and the time that the members who come to this organization or to this forum put into it. So I really do hope that you will do just that. Sorry, I digressed a bit there.
It's all good. I'm about to age myself immensely. So I have been to every forum since they began. And in 1993, there were 25 people who ran for the first AthletesCAN board. And the reason, it was, there'd been a provisional board and then the first board coming together. And the reason that 25 athletes, and the organization was told, you know what, athletes don't really want to be a part of this. And so it was this really powerful movement of athletes kind of meeting other people who were of similar mind, who had had similar experiences, and were just kind of going, wow, what can we do together? What could be the collective impact if we work together? So 25 people tried to get on that board because we all thought, this is incredible. And I was someone who I was terrified to even speak in public, much less the idea of getting in front of peers. I'm from the sport of racquetball, so it's not exactly a high-profile sport. But I was so moved by kind of the mission and the vision that this organization had that I wanted to be a part of that. I wasn't successful the first year, and then I was just, oh, there's no way I'm doing that again. Like, I went, but I wasn't going to put myself up there. I did it again the second year, was voted onto the board, and that began my leadership path with the association. But what I want to tell you about that experience is that coming year in and year out and being a part of this and investing in you as athletes, it's purely volunteer for me, but it's because of this continued sense of collectivity, this continued sense of purpose, and this really neat energy that keeps bringing people together because we can actually do something really positive. So just to add that to this creates an opportunity for you, and you don't know where it's going to take you, who you're going to meet or what you're going to learn and how that might impact your pathway as an athlete, but also in your career and as a volunteer. So I just really urge you to take advantage of the opportunities. So we'd like to ask you what you think your role is here, and just to think about this. How much input, either directly or indirectly, do you have, or do other decisions have, how much influence do you have in decisions that affect you and others? And are there ways that your voice is being heard when things are decided? So, show of hands, number of you in the room who sit on an athlete council or on a board. Okay. So certainly there's a lot of you in the room that are. Are some of you here to learn more, but you aren't yet in an athlete representative role? Do we have any in that row? Okay, so we've got some there as well. Good, so there's lots of opportunities here, either to develop some skills or to sharpen and fine-tune some skills. Guess we missed one really important thing from yesterday, from AthletesCAN School Day. How many participated in AthletesCAN School Day?
Nice.
Awesome. So this is the 10th anniversary, and it was 10 years ago in Fredericton where we were looking at being in a rural area and saying, you know what? Kids around here don't have the opportunity to bump up against national team athletes on a daily basis. This is really, this is a really good opportunity because Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, Victoria, there's some places where you just, it's almost like, oh yeah, there's another national team athlete. But in more rural areas, that's not the case, as was Fredericton and then afterwards Whitehorse and ongoing. So this started as a way to reach out, and now we have over 300 national team athletes have reached out to 22,500 children, including today's event. So that's a pretty big impact.
Is this a time to clap?
Yes, this is a good time to clap. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move ahead. Are we? You've got it? Okay. Keep going? Okay, sorry. So athlete reps, you'll let us know if this is you. Current or retired national team athletes. How many are current athletes?
Wow.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, retired? All right. So
Wow, that's also kind of cool.
that's kind of cool too.
Not as cool, it's cool.
So the dynamic of being an active national team athlete or a retired national team athlete, it certainly plays kind of on your role, what you think may be some of the good reasons to get involved, or why sometimes you have a little bit of nervousness or apprehension or anxiety about getting involved. Someone who speaks on behalf of the athletes, selected or appointed by their teammates. So in the beginning, a lot of athletes just basically heard, you're the athlete rep. Oh, okay, where am I going? And more athletes were then selecting or electing their athlete reps. So just out of curiosity, how many here are here through a process of being selected by their peers? Okay, so this is one of those issues where it's ongoing, right?
Sure. No,
right.
so you're a
That's
clean-
it.
Okay.
So this is one of those pieces where 20-some years later, it continues to be a bit of an issue. Like there's some tension there when you take on a role to be the voice on behalf of yourself and others. So, and whether you're active or retired, that plays into it a little bit. So there should be some interesting discussions over the weekend. You often represent not only your own discipline or your gender, of like if a sport is divided by male and female, and that causes other kind of complications sometimes, right? If you have separate training centers, if you have separate competitive schedules that are going in totally different directions, like how do you actually represent a collective when there could be all kinds of factors? Anything to add there? Keep going, he says. And you also are a bit of a gatekeeper around process. So you're trying to be, you're trying to ensure a fair process, that athletes are heard, and that the sport is maintaining this kind of athlete focus.
I would say this, as an athlete's rep, whether you're acclimation, you're elected, Lori's talking about these things, it will require some work on your part. And I anticipate some of you will say, look, I'm training, I'm competing, I'm trying to be the best, right? And how am I supposed to do all this? So I'm hoping that over the course of the weekend, you'll pick up some tips and tricks on how you can do that, how you can achieve the outcome that you're looking for on behalf of your actual team. Yeah. I can tell you that it's doable. It is actually doable. Right? It's doable, and again, there's lots of tools and resources to help you. So back in the beginning, and this, just one of these little snapshots, so we communicated by phone. Back in the old days. Are you going to tell this fax story? Is that what it is? We used faxes. We were really excited when we could use faxes to share information, when it didn't have to be, just put in a mailbox. Faxes were really cool. And then we got the internet. And we could communicate by email. And that was really, really cool. Like, that dates it. I mean, imagine, that's within the lifespan of this organization. So then, of course, imagine what happens when you get 12 or 13 people, all pretty driven, passionate about issues, and we're trying to debate ideas using this new thing called emails, and back and forth in the flurry, and things would get heated because there wasn't, you didn't really know what you were supposed to say or not say using emails, and so everything just came out, and so it was sort of like, well, is this a good tool or isn't it? And then dealing with conference calls and emails and how we were working with each other, and then we had cell phones. Yeah, I usually bring the old cell phones just to show you, because you could almost do like bicep curls with them. And again, that all of a sudden, so that now we could talk to each other without, wherever we happen to be. And then we were able to start putting in people's addresses into our phones, and that was really cool, so that we could then be able to call each other when we wanted to. So I bring this up now at website, right? Now we have all kinds of really cool stuff, and we have social media. So we're going to talk to you a little about that. Just to say that one of the key issues in the beginning was communication. How are we going to communicate with our athlete reps? Well, I'll tell you, if we could do it back in the early 90s, with the tools at your disposal now, you absolutely can communicate. Can we share information? Can we learn? Absolutely. And we have great tools to help you, help each other, and also to be able to communicate with your teammates. You can talk about the benefits?
You can talk about the benefits.
Some of them, you'll see the 9 enumerated benefits of being an athlete's rep. It may not resonate with you at this point in time, but I assure you it will as you continue along in your capacity as the athlete's rep. As Lori was talking about, I came through the system as a volunteer, still am a volunteer, still involved in the system. As I said to you before, you will have to do some work, and that's part of the beauty of it, right? It's part of the learning. Part of learning, getting to know, where do I sit when I walk into a boardroom? When is it my turn to speak when I go to that board meeting? What are the rules of engagement when I go to that particular meeting? You will learn these things, and inevitably, if it works, it will not only benefit you and your organization or your athletes, but as Lori mentioned, as you go on into your work life, I believe that will make a difference for you as well. I've been very, very fortunate as a result of my work with this organization to work with Canada Games, Olympic Committee, Commonwealth Games, and to see what does that mean when you do that? Does that wrap it up? Okay. Don't smile at me and tell me to wrap it.
So there's also some barriers and misconceptions.
Absolutely. All right. Absolutely.
Politics.
We know who's running things here for sure. It's not Mike Smith. Let's be clear about that.
They gave me the clicker.
We'll talk more about the benefits, though, because we'll come back to that.
Yeah. So politics. Politics is probably the number one reason that athletes don't want to get involved, because you have enough to focus on, right? Everybody has a lot on their plate, and whether you're trying to figure out where your funding's coming from, or how you're getting to your next competition, or what you're eating for your, we've got lots of things to worry about. And so adding another layer can sometimes seem like it's just one too many. But there's lots, and so is it stressful? It can be. That's why we have a supportive network. Hopefully that's why we have resources, and that's why we have programs to support you. Don't want to be controversial or piss anyone off. This one is just to raise it because in the beginning, a lot of the athlete reps felt that they had the safety because they had retired from their sports, and so they felt it gave them a bit of immunity. And this is a topic that continually comes up: is are you better to have a newly retired but still connected athlete versus an active athlete? In my sport in racquetball, we sort of bridged it by, at one point in the past, I don't think it's this way now, but we had an active, and we had 3 athletes who shared responsibilities, and one of them was a retired athlete. And what that allowed us to do was, if something was sensitive, use your athlete who it really doesn't have, there's no consequence. They can stand up for you and there's no consequence, and then maybe partner with an active athlete. So we can be talking about different solutions like that help you to be able to deal with some of the barriers. Your role here. There are mentors at every table, so there's a leader with every one of the tables. They are here to help. Make sure that you're networking and asking questions. Go ahead.
I think I've spoken about this already earlier on in terms of getting engaged and make sure you participate. I always challenge the athletes when they come to these sessions, right? So I don't know, Ashley will probably tell me later on, but roughly how many people are in the room. We're here till Sunday. If you have the ability, and I challenge you to make sure that before you leave this conference, this organization, this weekend, that you get the contact information. I know they're probably going to give it to you on a stick or something like that, but you have to go out and get it from the members at your table, at dinner, at a different workshop, whatever it is. You have to get their number and contact information before you leave this weekend. Okay, can you do that? Will you do that? Will you do that? Come on, guys. Will you do it? It's easy, right?
Now, we usually have a lot of fun. It's not all work. It is work. There's a lot of work. It's intense. We hope that you're going to be on time for your sessions, for our sessions, and that you're mindful when you're here, that you're paying attention and taking advantage of the opportunity. So like Mike said at the beginning, that you can come and leave and not have got anything out of it, or you can just reap all kinds of rewards.
Can I qualify that? Lori said, as a lawyer, I listen to every word that people say, and I think I just heard her say that we hope you will be on time for every session. Let's be clear. I do not hope that you're on time. You will be on time for every session. We're not hoping. You will be on time for every session. You have the schedules. You know where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be there. Be there on time.
Now, several years ago, back towards the beginning, we brought in something called the hospitality suite. And the reason that we did was because we had long days of these kinds of sessions and interaction and participation back and forth. But there was still so much more to tell, and there were so many other stories that people wanted to share, but maybe not in this kind of a setting. And so in the beginning, the hospitality suite was really just so people could unwind and all those casual conversations, and you could have lots of fun. Join in?
You want me to talk about the policy? Is that why you're looking
You
at
are
me?
going to talk about the policy.
Here's what I also say to the athletes when they come in here. I believe in this mentality. I live it. It's my mantra in part. Work hard, play hard. Right?
Responsibly.
Work hard, play hard. Many of you probably follow that, right?
Responsibly.
I'm getting there. Work hard, play hard. Okay, so that means when you'll leave these sessions, you'll unwind, you will play extremely hard. But you need to understand this. The next morning, there's another session, there's another place for you to be. You have to work hard as well. AthletesCAN now has a policy, and I think rightly so. At these forums, sometimes we have coffee, sometimes we may have an adult beverage, a beer or a glass of wine. You're all adults here. Okay, you're all adults here. It is, where's Lori? Where's Claire? It is incumbent upon you, right? It is incumbent upon you as responsible athletes, adults, to make sure that when you're drinking responsibly. This is the first and last I'm going to talk about this, right? Because we don't want to focus too much on it, but you do have that responsibility, and we hope that you'll act responsibly, that you will be safe. We're in this buddy table group. You can look out for each other, right? Especially if you kind of go off-site or leave campus, as it were.
Yeah. All right. So bringing us back into the, that poll's not, there we go. Oops. Okay. So, Mike, there's something called social media.
Yes, there is.
Right. Mike is a late adopter. You know how you have early adopters and people that... Mike is a very late adopter. We were at Forum a couple years ago teaching him how to tweet.
No, you weren't. What was that talk that we did that guy who talks on
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I don't tweet. I'm not on Facebook. I have Hotmail still. It works just fine. And we use Outlook at my office. And that is part and parcel because in the work that I do as a criminal defense lawyer, we really rely on Facebook and Twitter when we want to investigate people. So we go on their Facebook, we poke them, we find out about them so we can use them in cross-examination.
So keep that in mind,
so we
too.
use them for I use them for cross-examination purposes and discrediting people, right?
Okay.
You don't need to worry about that.
So unless you're going to be a criminal or go into politics, you might want to be really careful about what you do with social media. No, actually, we definitely have to be careful with what we do with social media, especially you more so than me because I'm long since retired. But for the work I do, and I have children, so that gives me another reason why I have to be careful with what I do on social media. But there is a AthletesCAN Forum social race. There are going to be follow on if you're not already on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you haven't already done so, tweet a picture of yourself heading to Forum, or like as if you were heading to Forum, with something you're looking forward to for the weekend. Follow up on there. Post a pic with you in AthletesCAN gear or goodies. Post about a leader who presented or something you learned. Take pics and tweets or posts with 2 or more leaders and the hashtags. Hashtags. We're good?
You can say it 10 times, it's still not going to change. You understand that.
From a different sport, no alcohol in pictures, please. That would be the only qualifier there. Quote at AthletesCAN, regram, repost, or retweet a post that AthletesCAN has posted, and make a memory and tell the favorite part. So there's lots of really cool things that you can be doing with social media. There is a race, and there are prizes. There are prizes.
Oh, you should have started with that.
Oh.
Maybe I will tweet.
Oh.
Maybe I will.
He's going to join us after all. Every person has their own reason to be motivated. And so finally, after Forum, the materials are available online. Share, and share. Benefit from all the programs and services. We really need to keep the dialogue going. This isn't just about coming together once a year and then not having any contact until some date in the future, far away. It's really about building on the network and taking advantage of the capacity, the shared capacity that we have.
And as you're doing that, think about in your roles as athlete rep, how you will share the information that you get from this weekend with your team members and members of your organization. So as you're doing that, I know it's great for your own personal consumption, but we're hoping that you will share that. So.
And that's it. That wraps it up.